Welcome to your next microtraining video. On this video, I'm going to talk about my new love in the kitchen, which is making broth. Now, I personally like to make a bone broth out of chicken feet. That's right, chicken feet, but chicken feet will afford you the ability to get this done within 24 hours, and literally you're just throwing in all the ingredients. It's going to start looking like a compost bin at the beginning, but what you're going to have after 24 hours is a delicious broth that you can use to make a quick rice, you can use to make your pasta, which is for most kids a favorite. That way you're ensuring they're getting lots of micronutrients, lots of nutrient absorbable amounts of calcium, numerous amounts of microminerals, and also you're going to get a lot of micronutrients and vitamins from the vegetables. You are going to be cooking it for 24 hours, so your vegetables are going to leach, but remember, you're using the water, so the vitamins will be in the water. Some will be damaged from the heating, but you will still get a lot of very valuable micronutrients. Especially, I love the calcium portion of it, and the bone building and cartilage building materials that you get out of this kind of composition. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I make mine, and this slow food dish actually becomes a fast food dish for me because I'll actually leave the bone broth. This makes about 3 to 4 liters for me, and when I'm actually in a crunch, I take a liter, just under a liter, pop it in a pot, throw in maybe a full can of beans that have a no BPA lining in them, and I'll just literally puree that can of beans into that broth that's already made and ready in the fridge. And there you go, my kids are having a soup. They love the taste of this. So tasty when you're using those chicken feet. And if you're not into chicken feet, you don't have to. You can just use the eggshells and the vegetable ingredients I'm going to tell you about. There are ways to use beef bone. I personally don't use that because for me it's just not a convenient thing to do. It has to go for 2 days. You have to brown the bone. So again, we're using what is quickest and gives you the effect you're looking for those micronutrients. So more soup tips on what you can do with your broth to have a really quick meal will be talked about in another training video, but let's look at what I'm doing right now with my soup so you can get a better understanding. So in this stock pot here, I have put in various things for my kitchen. So we are now really reducing kitchen waste because we're saving our onion skins, we're saving our celery parts that we would normally toss out, and we're saving eggshells. So we're actually freezing all of our eggshells, and you don't have to worry about really scrubbing them down. This is going to boil out for 24 hours. And what we're doing is throwing in literally as many as you want of eggshells. I think I must have at least a dozen in here. I've also put in here some leeks, so I cut off the bottom part of the leeks. You can actually use the top part just for flavoring, but this part is actually edible. So we're going to boil that out and then take it out to keep for our soups in the future, to either puree them into our future soups or to chop them up into little pieces. And then back here I've got the celery. Once the 24-hour process is done, I like to take the celery out so it doesn't start to taste weird, and I actually toss that in the compost. And then the eggshells, you could actually, at the end of this 24-hour process, if when you pinch them, they're still pretty firm after 24 hours, you could actually refreeze them in a bag and put them into your next stock recipe. Or if you think you're going through enough eggs in your house, you could just compost them at that point. You'll also notice some flecks in here. Those flecks are dulse flakes. So what dulse flakes are is they are a sea vegetable. So these are my dulse flakes here. You want to make sure they're ideally not coming from the coast of Japan and having some kind of labeling on them that indicates that they're purified so that we're not getting a lot of contamination from the oceans. And those dulse flakes are going to add in nice amounts of iodine and all kinds of micronutrients that we're missing because most of us don't even touch sea vegetables on a regular basis. So very thyroid supporting, very important to keep those kind of nutrients coming into your body. I do put some sea salt in here too, but my preference is to add the salt when I'm doing each individual soup recipe. So this is making us a liquid broth. And then you can take out, I also have 3 carrots in here, so there's 3 carrots, 3 celery stalks, I've got some leeks, about a quarter to a half a cup of dulse flakes, about a dozen eggshells, and a little salt in here, and 4 chicken feet, which are at the bottom. And literally, see how it's just starting to bubble there? Right here you can start to notice. So that's literally all you need happening for 24 hours to make this work. And if you're in the kitchen, you could boil it up a little bit faster, just because you know you're safe because you're in the kitchen. But if you're not close in the kitchen and you want to be really sure, you could just have it boil literally at this degree and be very safe and assured that everything's fine in your kitchen. Although I do not give recommendation to leave your home, of course, when you have something on the stove. This recipe is going to again give you about 3 or 4 liters of broth, liquid broth, and then I take out the carrots and the leeks, which I can later use to make individual little soups for the family. And I might puree some leeks and carrots into that soup, throw in some beans, puree the beans in there too. I like to use beans from a no BPA lining can, and you can actually add in cute little pastas. There's some really neat pastas we found that are alphabet pastas, for example, or shaped pastas made from rice pasta or from quinoa pasta. I'm just going to take a look at my cupboard and see if I'm finding any to share with you. So I don't see any here at the minute. But I do have here some quinoa, which is another thing I'll often add, some organic quinoa. I'll often add about depending how big your soup is, just add in about a handful, and then that'll take about 10 minutes or 15 minutes to cook, and then check your soup, see if it's as thick as you'd like it or as thin as you'd like it. When you're adding pasta to your final soup, be aware it is going to expand and it is going to add some starchiness, so your soup might become a lot less liquidy than you expect after that's boiled out for about 10 minutes. So again, you're going to end up with a nice broth that you can quickly use to make your rice, making your rice, wow, so many times more nutritious than what it would have been on its own with just water. And you can use it to make little mini soups as needed, because that stock is going to last for a good chunk of time in your fridge, at least 5 days, and then you can freeze the parts that you're not using, freezing them in either Ziploc containers or in special storage containers that are not made of glass. So I hope you found this helpful, and I'd really be interested to hear how you've been finding your broth is working. And try not to be intimidated. Literally, you can throw most anything in this broth and it will work. You can even throw in some sage, and you can throw in some bay leaf if you want to add a little extra herb flavor. I'll see you on the next micro training.